You know, it was always my dream job from the early days of...
Matt Lauer made $25 million a year at NBC. Now he's spotted doing his own dry cleaning in the Hamptons. But something changed in September 2025. Sources say he's meeting with publishers about a tell-all memoir where he plans to name names. The book could expose what really happened behind closed doors at NBC. His former friends are already nervous. And the most shocking part, he claims he has proof that changes everything. This is the story NBC never wanted America to hear. Matt Lauer was born on December 30th, 1957, right in the heart of New York City when television was rapidly becoming a permanent fixture in American homes. His father, J. Robert Lauer, was a bicycle executive who dealt with global sales during the post-war boom. His mother, Marilyn Calmer, had once been a bikini model and later opened a lingerie boutique called the English Shop in Manhattan. Their household revolved around both sharp business sense and a polished public image. His father came from Romanian Jewish roots, while his mother had a non-Jewish American background. That mix gave Matt early exposure to a culturally diverse environment, something that would later help him connect with millions on TV. When Matt was only 6, his parents split up in 1963. He stayed with his mother in Manhattan's Upper East Side. That divorce was more than just a family shift. It pushed young Matt to seek structure and approval wherever he could find it. He started watching TV news obsessively, not for fun, but because it felt stable and orderly. It was during these years that the idea of becoming a broadcaster started to form. His mother, now a single parent, worked harder than ever to keep the boutique afloat. And Matt absorbed those lessons in perseverance and public poise early on. Even though his parents divorced, Matt still saw his father on weekends. Those visits often happened at their Long Island home, where Jay passed on practical business lessons that stuck with Matt for decades. Meanwhile, his mother remarried Richard Colmer, who owned a chain of parking garages, another example of entrepreneurship Matt was surrounded by. He grew up without a strong religious identity, but was influenced by both Jewish and non-Jewish traditions. Later in life, he admitted feeling drawn toward exploring spirituality more deeply. Matt had an older sister, April, who was born in 1953. While Matt pursued fame, she preferred a quiet life, raising her kids away from the media's eye. But the two remained close. April later said that watching their mother handle clients with grace and polish at the boutique taught both siblings about presentation and professionalism. While Matt took that training onto television, April chose to stay behind the scenes but always admired his path. His fascination with broadcasting was also shaped by his maternal grandfather, Art Gentry, who had been a big name in the 1930s as part of the Eaton Boys, a vaudeville quartet that sang on Broadway stages and CBS radio shows. They even appeared in animated films and played New York's Palace Theater 9 times in one year. ART's journey from radio announcer to Broadway singer showed Matt that storytelling and performance could be powerful tools, and it planted the seed for a career in media. Matt spent his high school years in Greenwich, Connecticut, graduating in 1975. The town was wealthy and polished, another environment that shaped his sharp presentation skills. By this time, his mother had remarried, and her stability, combined with the surroundings of Greenwich, gave Matt the kind of environment where confidence could flourish. His father, who had long divorced Marilyn, died in 1997, the same year Matt's career hit a major high point. After high school, he enrolled at Ohio University to pursue a communications degree. His time there was a mix of ambition and impatience. He got involved in media activities but hit a wall in 1979 when he found out the last course he needed wasn't available that semester. Instead of waiting, he dropped out just 4 credits short of graduating and took a job as a noon news producer at Wall TV in West Virginia. At only 21, he was making tough calls in a real newsroom, writing scripts, coordinating reporters, and diving headfirst into the pressure cooker of local news. That decision could have gone terribly wrong, but it didn't. Within a year, by 1980, he was already an on-air reporter for the evening newscasts. When another reporter left, Matt talked his way into a shot at being on camera. It worked. He started doing live reports and interviews, quickly becoming a face viewers trusted. His move to the station's Charleston bureau gave him exposure to political reporting too, something that added depth to his storytelling. In 1980, a 22-year-old Matt Lauer took his first real step into national television when he joined PM Magazine at WXX-TV in Richmond, Virginia. At the same time, he was still juggling part-time work at WAL in West Virginia. PM Magazine was a lifestyle show airing in about 100 cities across the U.S., filled with human interest stories and light entertainment. It wasn't hard news, but it gave Lauer the space to build his presence on camera. For a year, he explored different topics, interviewed celebrities, and learned how to carry a show. This role slowly moved him out of the shadows of behind-the-scenes production and toward being the face people saw on TV. In 1981, he moved to a bigger stage, Providence, Rhode Island. For 3 years, he co-hosted PM Magazine at WJR-TV, the local NBC station. Here, he polished his interview style and became more confident in front of the camera. The market was larger, the audience broader, and the expectations higher. He covered New England's unique culture and stories, learning how to speak directly to viewers as if they were sitting across the table. This wasn't just about delivering facts. It was about connection. By 1984, that connection paid off. He got called up to the biggest media market in the country, New York City. In 1984, Lauer landed at WNEW-TV to co-host the city's version of PM Magazine. For 2 years, he operated in a different league. The stories were bigger, the celebrities more famous, and the pressure more intense. But when the show got canceled in 1986, he didn't sit still. He and his co-host Jill Rappaport launched Made in New York, which lasted only 15 weeks before being canceled too. But Lauer's name was now known, and that helped him land a spot co-hosting Fame, Fortune, and Romance with Robin Leach, a spin-off of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, that aired from 1986 to 1987, focusing on luxury and celebrity culture. In September 1987, Lauer tried something new in Philadelphia, hosting live on Citiline on WCU-TV, then a CBS station. He was 29, full of ambition, and paired with co-host Sheila Allen Stevens. The show was designed for entertainment with celebrity interviews, fashion, and gossip. But from the beginning, it struggled. Critics weren't kind. One reviewer mocked the host for smiling too much, as if they were trying too hard to have fun. By November, the format changed. Sheila returned to news, and Lauer was left to host alone, but the show was canceled that same week. Lauer kept his chin up, telling a local paper he had no bitterness and called it a learning experience. The next stop was Boston in 1988, where he hosted Talk of the Town on WEV-TV, but luck wasn't on his side. The show was canceled due to budget cuts. Around the same time, he was also working for ESPN and HBO, reporting sports and entertainment news. He was constantly flying back and forth between cities, trying to stay afloat in a business where shows came and went like weather. His colleagues joked that he practically lived at the airport. He was everywhere, on multiple screens, in multiple cities, trying everything. It was exhausting, but it built his image as someone who could do it all. Then came September 1989, and everything changed. Lauer returned to New York to host a 3-hour daily interview show called 9 Broadcast Plaza on WWTV. This was his real breakthrough. Big names came through the studio. The audience was large. It felt like he'd finally arrived. But in 1991, he hit a wall. Producers told him to read live ads for Dial Mattress. Lauer refused. He thought it was beneath a serious interview. Then came the tabloid guests, the kind he didn't want to talk to. He pushed back and eventually walked away. The station scrambled, trying out names like Howard Stern, Robin Leach, and Weird Al Yankovic before the show changed completely. That decision nearly ended his career. After quitting in 1991, he spent the entire year unemployed. For 12 months, he couldn't get a job. His co-anchor Jane Hansen later said Lauer was so lost he even thought about becoming a tree trimmer. No shows, no offers, no hope. It was the darkest year of his life. But then, in 1992, a call came from WNBC. They offered him a slot on Today in New York at 5 in the morning, a time slot most anchors avoided. But Lauer knew he couldn't afford to say no. He treated it like his last chance, pouring everything he had into it. He started doing street interviews, live hits, and audience interactions. It was local news, but he treated it like national television. And it worked. By 1993, he got promoted to WNBC's early evening newscast, Live at 5, sitting next to Sue Simmons. This was a high-profile job, and it pushed him beyond morning fluff. He handled serious stories like the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, which killed 6 and injured over 1,000. That day, the bombing happened at 12:18 p.m., and by that evening, Lauer was live on air reporting the details. The blast had created a crater 100 feet wide under the building, and Lauer was calm, clear, and credible. That coverage showed NBC he was ready for more. But all of this was happening while his personal life was falling apart. In 1981, he married TV producer Nancy Alsper. They divorced in 1988, but stayed friends. In 1989, he began dating newscaster Kristen Jeswain. Their relationship lasted 7 years and included his entire period of unemployment. They even got engaged around 1995, but split a year later. Friends said Lauer used his heartbreak and personal chaos as fuel to keep pushing professionally, never saying no to a job, always doing more than expected. His move to national television began quietly in 1992. NBC started using him as a substitute newsreader for the Today Show, filling in for Margaret Larson. It wasn't official yet, more like a long audition. This lasted through 1993, and by January 1994, he officially took over as news anchor. From there, he became NBC's utility player, filling in for Katie Couric, Bryant Gumbel, and even Tom Brokaw. In 1994, during the O.J. Simpson trial, Today moved to Studio 1A, and Lauer was part of the action. His calm under pressure and ability to juggle breaking news and human stories made NBC executives believe he could be the future of the show. On the morning of January 6, 1997, Matt Lauer stepped into one of the most high-pressure jobs on television, replacing Bryant Gumbel as co-anchor of NBC's Today Show, sitting next to Katie Couric. During those first few minutes, visibly tense, he turned to Couric and joked that she should remind him to breathe. The chemistry between Lauer and Couric turned out to be magnetic, and within a year, they were pulling in over 5.2 million daily viewers, more than 2 million ahead of Good Morning America. That very first week, Lauer was already covering President Clinton's second inauguration, and his sharp, pointed questioning style, especially around healthcare reform, grabbed younger audiences. NBC executives credited the Lauer-Couric dynamic for today's resurgence, a streak that would keep it on top for more than a decade. But Lauer wasn't new to big moments. Just a year earlier, during the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, his poolside interviews, especially with Amy Van Dyken, who won 4 gold medals, had already made him a national figure. For Lauer, it was proof he could handle high-profile moments with a mix of emotion and toughness. By the end of 1997, his salary neared $5 million a year, putting him among the highest-paid TV personalities. On October 3, 1998, he married Dutch model Annette Roque in a quiet Hamptons ceremony. Born in Amsterdam in 1966, she came from a Dutch-Indonesian family and had modeled in Paris under the name Jade. While working for brands like Victoria's Secret and J.Crew, she met Lauer on a blind date in 1997, and the spark was instant. Friends said they had a drink, exchanged numbers, and that was it. Lauer later admitted it took him 2 months just to kiss her. But behind the scenes, whispers had already started. People talked about Lauer's flirtatious behavior, but most brushed it off back then as just Matt being Matt. Then came January 27, 1998, just 10 days after President Clinton was questioned under oath about Monica Lewinsky. First Lady Hillary Clinton appeared on the Today Show with Lauer. It was one of the most watched and talked about interviews of the era. Clinton had denied the affair just a day before, and now Hillary was stepping up for damage control. Lauer didn't hold back. He asked her directly whether the American people had the right to know what really happened. Hillary gave a response that became part of political history, blaming a vast right-wing conspiracy that had supposedly been targeting her husband for years. That line stayed in headlines for a long time. The interview cemented Lauer's reputation as someone who could go tough, even with the most powerful names in politics. In the end, Hillary's defense didn't hold up. Bill Clinton was cited for contempt, had to give up his law license, and became the first U.S. president impeached for personal misconduct. Later that same year, Lauer launched a segment that would take him further than any anchor had gone, literally. Where in the World is Matt Lauer? Premiered in 1998 and instantly became a ratings magnet. Inspired by the Carmen Sandiego game show, it sent Lauer and a full NBC crew to far-off locations around the globe during key sweeps weeks. The first edition alone had him in Antarctica, ice swimming near penguins, broadcasting in sub-zero conditions while reporting on conservation. From 1998 to 2011, he visited 49 places across 6 continents and traveled more than 248,000 miles. The list included Bhutan, Iran, Easter Island, Hong Kong, Croatia, the Great Wall of China, and the Panama Canal. Viewers were hooked, and the segment became a major part of today's identity until the 2011 economic downturn forced NBC to put it on pause. Starting in 1998, Lauer also became a fixture of another American tradition, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. He co-hosted every year through 2017, making him one of the most familiar faces of the event. While he wasn't there for the infamous 1997 cat in the hat balloon crash that left a woman in a coma, Lauer did have his own on-air scare in 2008. That year, a balloon shaped like a Keith Haring artwork veered off course and smashed into the broadcast booth, startling Lauer, Ulroka, and Meredith Vieira live on air. That moment stuck with viewers for years and became one of the most talked-about mishaps during his hosting run. In 2000, Lauer returned to Olympic coverage in Sydney. But the legend about Michael Phelps winning gold and being interviewed at 4 a.m. isn't true. Phelps was just 15 at the time and didn't win any medals in Sydney, though he was the youngest male swimmer on the U.S. team in 68 years. His coach, Bob Bowman, said that Phelps was simply enjoying the moment, improving with each swim. NBC's main broadcasts were mostly tape-delayed that year, and there was no Harbour interview at dawn. Lauer's salary kept climbing. Between 2005 and 2007, he was earning between $12 and $13 million per year. By 2008, that figure hit $13 million, then jumped to $17 million, and eventually reached $25 million by 2012. Some people think he bought his New Zealand ranch around this time, but that didn't happen until February 2017, just months before NBC fired him. There was also the infamous Britney Spears interview in June 2006 for Dateline NBC. Lauer asked her about paparazzi and custody rumors, and Spears broke down in tears. Years later, the footage was used in the Framing Britney Spears documentary as an example of the intense pressure she faced from the media. Lauer picked up several daytime Emmys for his work on the Thanksgiving Parade, winning in 1999, 2000, 2004, 2007, and 2009. During the 2004 Athens Olympics, gymnastics was rocked by a major judging scandal after Paul Ham was awarded gold when South Korean gymnast Yang Tae-young was mistakenly scored too low. The International Gymnastics Federation admitted the error and 4 judges were suspended. But it wasn't Lauer who exposed that. It came directly from the federation itself. The scandal dominated coverage, but no evidence confirms that Lauer's reporting triggered any formal investigation. In June 2007, Lauer interviewed Princes William and Harry at RAF Shawbury. The interview touched on their military service, with Harry discussing deployment to Iraq and William opening up about their living arrangements. They teased each other during the chat. Harry made fun of William's cooking, and William poked fun at Harry's snoring. One question Lauer asked about the coolest thing about being a prince got a thoughtful answer from William, who talked about being grateful for their circumstances. But the claim that Lauer mentioned wild Vegas nights during that interview, shocking UK tabloids and boosting international ratings, can't be verified. In 2008, during the Beijing Summer Olympics, Matt Lauer co-hosted the opening ceremony alongside Bob Costas. The show went on to win a Peabody Award in 2014, praised for Zhang Yimou's grand production involving thousands of performers. But the games weren't just about sport. That year, China's human rights issues drew global attention. At least 50 local activists were arrested or placed under house arrest, and an AIDS campaigner, who was detained after comparing the Olympics to Hitler's 1936 games in Berlin. While Lauer reported various Olympic segments and conducted interviews, he remained the familiar NBC face across global screens. 4 years later, when the London Olympics began, he was again front and center, but this time his commentary sparked backlash. People called it flat, shallow, and even ignorant. April 2012 marked a turning point. Lauer signed a huge deal with NBC News, $25 million a year, running through 2017. That made him one of America's highest-paid television personalities. It was also the year he co-hosted the London Olympics opening ceremony with Meredith Vieira and Bob Costas. He interviewed major athletes, including Oscar Pistorius, the double amputee sprinter known as the Blade Runner. This was Lauer at his peak, moving up from his previous $17 million salary. NBC News president at the time, Steve Capus, called him their franchise player, a nod to his dominance on screen. Between 2011 and 2013, Lauer appeared on Rock Center with Brian Williams, NBC's attempt at a more serious primetime news magazine. It launched in late 2011 but struggled to get viewers. NBC pulled it during sweeps in 2012, but gave it another shot with a second season. The final episode aired in June 2013. Behind the scenes, workplace tensions were already brewing, though specific allegations tied to Rock Center hadn't surfaced yet. The show's quiet exit reportedly left Brian Williams feeling dismissed and insulted. Then came the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics. While filling in for Bob Costas, who was out with an eye infection, Lauer allegedly assaulted NBC colleague Brooke Nevils in his hotel room. According to High account later published in Ronan Farrow's Catch and Kill, she'd had several vodka shots at the hotel bar before returning to his room at his request to get her press credentials. What happened next, she said, was non-consensual. She was too drunk to consent. Nevils didn't report the incident immediately, but when she did in 2017, Lauer was fired in just 2 days. That wasn't the only time Lauer's choices drew fire. On September 7, 2016, he moderated NBC's Commander-in-Chief Forum featuring Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Around 14.7 million tuned in. Each candidate had 30 minutes, but Lauer spent a third of Clinton's time grilling her on her private email server. Meanwhile, he let Trump slide on a false Iraq War claim. Critics called him sloppy, biased, and even sexist. Some said the performance wasn't just weak, it was shocking. Through all of this, Lauer was raising 3 children. His son Jack was born in 2001, daughter Romy in 2003, and youngest Tejas in 2006. His schedule at Today was brutal. The Where in the World segment had him traveling constantly until it ended in 2008. On air, he once admitted that despite having the best job in television, he was starting to feel more like a father than an anchor. The years on the road had taken a toll. He was missing key moments. As his kids grew, the tension between career and home only grew sharper. In 2006, during Annette Roque's pregnancy with their 3rd child, she filed for divorce. The documents accused Lauer of cruelty, controlling behavior, and hostility. She withdrew the filing soon after, but insiders later claimed it was more of a pause than a fix. Lauer reportedly offered her $5 million to stay. The marriage continued for over 10 more years, but accusations of infidelity never stopped circling. By 2016, rumors exploded that Lauer was having an affair with co-anchor Natalie Morales. She eventually left Today for Access Hollywood. While both denied the relationship, the whispers inside NBC didn't stop. Insiders said Lauer had so much control that a single word from him could end careers. Back in 2000, a 24-year-old production assistant named Addie Zanone said she had a consensual relationship with Lauer when he was 43 and newly married. She said the experience haunted her after a tabloid reporter showed up at her door. Lauer vanished from her life just before everything unraveled. In early 2017, Lauer bought a lease on a 16,000-acre ranch in New Zealand. It cost him $9 million. He wanted it to be a safe haven for his family. The ranch came with a 5-bedroom lakefront home, fishing huts, livestock, and breathtaking views. After his firing, New Zealand officials launched an inquiry to see if he still met the country's good character requirement for foreign landowners. In June 2018, they decided not to revoke the lease, citing a lack of criminal charges. The property became both a refuge and a symbol of his dramatic fall. Ronan Farrow's book didn't just include Brooke Neville's account. It exposed NBC's internal rot, multiple secret settlements, NDAs, and allegations stretching back 6 or 7 years. One former reporter said Lauer harassed her so persistently that she quit in 2012. She was forced to sign a document waiving her right to sue. She said she used to come home and cry, feeling like meat on a hook. NBC claimed they didn't know, but Farrow showed documents suggesting otherwise. Everything changed on November 27, 2017, when NBC received a formal complaint from a woman about Lauer's behavior during the Sochi Olympics. 2 days later, he was fired. Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kotb delivered the news live at 7 a.m., reading a statement that made it clear this probably wasn't the only case. 2 more complaints came in that same day. Within 2 weeks, 7 women had come forward. One of the darkest claims, again from Brooke Neville's, described how Lauer pushed her against a hotel door, forced himself on her while she said no, and left her in pain and confusion. Farrow found proof of internal settlements and traced patterns of behavior that NBC had allegedly ignored for years. Lauer insisted it was consensual and the beginning of an affair. Neville said it wasn't. Possibly the most chilling detail was the button under Lauer's desk in his Rockefeller Center office. It locked the door remotely. NBC said other execs had similar devices, but after the Variety report, it became a symbol of predatory power. A former NBC employee said Lauer once used that button, then assaulted her in his office. She passed out, woke up on the floor, and was taken to the nurse. NBC eventually launched an internal investigation, interviewing 68 people and hiring 2 outside law firms to overhaul its workplace policies. Annette Roque filed for divorce in January 2018, just 2 months after Lauer's firing. It was finalized in September 2019 with a reported $20 million settlement. Earlier reports suggested Lauer feared losing $50 million, half his net worth. He gave Roque nearly everything she asked for. Their 3 kids, Jack, Romy, and Tejas, were given shared custody. Lauer kept about $80 million. He later began dating Shamina Bars, a woman he'd known for nearly 2 decades. By October 2025, Matt Lauer is 67 and almost unrecognizable. He rarely shows up in public anymore, but when he does, usually in Sag Harbor or the Hamptons, people notice the change. His hair is mostly gone, his face older, and is often just running small errands like picking up dry cleaning. But behind the quiet routines, something bigger is brewing. A report in September 2025 says he's seriously thinking about writing a memoir. Not just any memoir, but one where he doesn't hold back. He's reportedly ready to tell the full story of how he left NBC, even if that means naming names. People close to him say there have already been some exciting lunch meetings with podcast producers and streaming execs. So far, no formal deals, but publishers are watching closely. They believe if Lauer is really ready to be honest and specific, the book could become a major talking point. One insider said it might be packed with details people have never heard before. Even now, he hasn't completely cut ties with everyone from his past. He's still in touch with people like Don Lemon and Hoda Kotb. But experts think there's no way back to the spotlight, not with the weight of the past still hanging over him. For now, he stays with Shamina Bars and keeps a low profile. Most of his focus is on being around his children. The world he once ruled from a morning show desk is far behind him. What comes next might be found in the pages of a book that hasn't been written.